Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well still, and welcome to today's second bonus. This bonus gets us kind of right up to Saturday Nightmares, live from upstate New York. That is our live stream at 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I do hope to see you there. This is an interview that I pulled out of the archive about 4.5, maybe 5 years ago. And just recently, this gentleman was on another channel, a kind of high strangeness, not just Dogman, but the guy, the channel covers paranormal and other things. An amazing interview with an amazing guy. Before we get into it, a couple quick links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch is displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click the like button. It takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads that I put out daily, click the bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment and share the video. Why? Well, because all these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely do matter, and they are appreciated. And with that, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to today's second bonus, shall we? All right, everybody. Today I have a subscriber and fellow researcher with us tonight. His name is Roy, and he is going to share his encounters with us. I'm looking forward to hearing them. I've talked to him for 2 hours tonight and have not heard his encounters yet, but we've had some really good conversation. That's one thing I can say. Roy, how are you?
I'm doing well, Jeff. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. And I appreciate you reaching out. And I'm glad that we can get together and you can share your encounters with everybody.
Thank you for having me. I wasn't sure if you would respond back to me. I know you're busy. A lot of people need to get their encounters out, but some people have heard my encounter before, and as incredible as it sounds, it is what happened to me in my life at a time that I knew nothing about Dogman, or Bigfoot, Goatman, Jersey Devil. I was worried about basketball and football and girls. It was the last thing on my mind. But just to give you a little background on me and how all this occurred, in my opinion, is my name is Roy Stubblefield. I'm from Nebraska, and I was living with my cousin at the time, him and his mother, his little brother, and things was going good and no problems in the house. That, go to school and do the chores and stay out of trouble. So that's what I was doing. But one day out of the blue, because her mom called a family meeting, and first thing went to my head is, what did somebody forget to do? Usually when she called a meeting, it's because somebody didn't do something. Well, now she got to go with the rules. But actually, the conversation wasn't about that. She was informing us that she was about to move to New Orleans, Louisiana, and that if we wanted to, we could stay there in the house, but we would have to get jobs and take utilities. And I'm like, wait, you're going to leave teenagers, 3 males alone, and you're going to go to another state, and as long as we pay the bill and don't tear the house up, we can stay here and do what we want to. Okay, you don't have to convince me. That sounds like a good deal. But once we got done having a meeting, she called me in the kitchen and asked me would I help her drive down there. I'm like, yeah, I'll help you do that. No problem. Which also meant I had to help her unload that U-Haul too. I knew there was a hit. But get to see a state I haven't never seen before, try some different food, you know, see what the locals are like. You know, something I could put in my journal for, you know, an experience that I had in life. Corey. So I told her, yeah, I'll do it. And plus at that time I was on the tail end of going through a breakup. My first serious relationship with a girl in high school. We had been together almost 2 years. So probably a change in scenery probably would did me good. So I said, okay. She said she put me on the bus a week later back to Nebraska. I was like, okay, that's fine. That worked for me. So we loaded up the U-Haul the following weekend. We drove down there, got it unloaded, and well, actually, when we first got to town after the drive, we just took the bed out and the sofa, and I got on the sofa, and she laid on the mattress, and we just went to sleep because it was a pretty long drive. But after we got everything unloaded and in the house, I asked her if she'd show me around, and yeah, I'll show you around. Okay, so she took me to some of the tourist attractions, and we went to a couple of restaurants, and then she took me to the French Quarters, and to see people out just walking around drinking, having a good time, people not fighting or, you know, acting stupid, just coexisting peacefully and having a good time. And there's bars and all this kind of stuff down there that I could actually get into. I'm like, I'm not going back to Omaha. This is where I want to be. So we had a conversation about it, and she knew I was planning on going to college. And she's like, so what are you going to do about that? I'm like, I can go to college down here. That's not a problem. So she said, well, you're going to get a job. She said, how are you going to go to school and have a job? I'm like, I'll do both, but I'm not trying to be broke. But so that's what I did, and I got a job at a store called Chess King. It was a men's clothing store back in the day. And
yeah, it was. I remember Chess King.
Michael Jackson, the flock of seagulls. Come on in. We got the look you want.
They sold Z Cabaricis back then. Remember that?
Yes. Yes, they did.
Yep.
Yes, they did. And we had a small section that was dedicated to women. It was a small section. It wasn't as big as the men's section, but I was at work one day. I think it was maybe my 6th or 7th day at work, and this girl came in the store. A woman came in the store, and I was standing behind the counter, and I wasn't helping anybody. My manager was there. She was actually helping a customer, and I was looking at her, and well, let's just say I was young. She looked like she had everything Uncle John needs. So I'm trying to formulate in my head how I'm going to approach her. So I did, and I went over and asked her if she needed some help. And at first she said no, she was just looking, and then I turned and walked away, and she called me back and asked me about some shirts, if we had them in a different color. And I said, I'll go in the back and look. So I did that, and when I came back out, we started chit-chatting, and she was friendly. I'm not going to say overly friendly, but she was friendly. And it seemed like she was, you know, worth taking a chance on asking her out. So I did. And she said, yeah, I'll go with you. So I actually show you around, look at some more spots you don't know about. I'm like, okay, that sounds good. And we stand there talking. I said, well, let me have your phone number, and I'll call you Friday and let you know what time I'll be by to pick you up. She said, well, I can't give you my phone number. I said, okay. I said, well, what's your address? We can decide right now what time I'm gonna pick you up, and I'll just come by and get you. Well, I can't give you my address. And I guess my face can basically give away what I'm thinking. And she looked at me, she said, no, I don't have a boyfriend, and no, I'm not married. Because I had looked at both her hands, and I know she didn't have a wedding ring on. But that doesn't mean she wasn't married, of course. It just means she didn't have a ring on. But when she told me that, I'm figuring, okay, if you ain't got a boyfriend, you're not married, then why can't call the house? You know, why can't I come by and get you? And she said, well, my mother doesn't allow me to have me and the boys come by the house. I said, oh, okay. Which wasn't unheard of back in the 80s and especially the 70s, but, you know, I thought in 81 we was coming into a new age, so I took it with a grain of salt. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Well, how are we going to do this? And he said, well, there's a park a couple of blocks from my house. Why don't you meet me there? I said, 7 o'clock work for you? I'll just come, you know, as soon as I get off work. She's like, yeah, 7 o'clock could work. I'll be there. She said, if I'm not there right at 7 o'clock, I'll be there no later than 7:05, 17, something like that. And I was like, okay, well, I can wait that long if you're not there at 7 o'clock. So my manager has finished helping the customer. She's helping. She was standing to the side, looking, listening to us. And I was glancing at her every now and again. She kept kind of giving me that look like a thumbs up kind of look, but she just was nodding with her chin. So I smiled a little bit, but I took her to the register and rang her up. She made her purchase, and I walked her to the door. And I had a conversation with somebody about this, because sometimes when you think about what happened, sometimes a small detail slips through the crack because it doesn't seem like it makes that much of a difference. But I remember when I was holding the door open for her, when she walked outside and she turned back around to face me, when she turned and looked at me, the way the light was hitting her eyes were that hazel brown color. But she had like little flecks of gold in her eyes, but around her pupil, it looked like maybe like a goldish color, but it had to be from the way the sun was hitting her eyes. I don't know. I've never seen anybody else's eyes do that, but I was talking to somebody about that, and we really went deep into my encounter, and he was prodding me, asking me stuff nobody else had asked me. He was asking about her eyes, like it's almost like he knew something that he wasn't telling me, but I'll go into that later on. But I just remembered that, and I thought, man, she's got some of the most beautiful eyes I've ever seen before. And then, you know, she turned and walked away, and I left, and my boss is talking to me like, so you got a date, huh? You got a date? I'm like, yeah, I got a date. So she was like, okay. She said, I don't have a problem with you making dates in the store. She said, but it's not what you're going to be doing all the time, right? I'm like, no, most definitely not. But thank you for not embarrassing me. So I finished out the day and went home. Thursday came and went, because this happened on a Wednesday. Thursday came and went. Come Friday, I'm like, okay, I got a date tonight. So I did my shift, left straight from the job, and I had asked my boss for directions to the park, because she evidently lives in Metairie, Louisiana, and I was in New Orleans where I met her. So I had to drive a little ways just to get to Metairie. And I met her at this park. Well, I was supposed to meet her at this park. And I showed up probably about 6:55, 6:60, somewhere in there. And I walked in, and I got on button-up dress shirt, short sleeve, some shorts, because it's really nice in Louisiana, temperature-wise. And I had some sandals on. And I walked in there, and I looked around. There was some guys playing basketball, and I sat down, and I wasn't there 5 minutes, and this guy walked over to me like, hey, man, you want to play basketball? We got next. And I'm like, no, I'm not dressed to play basketball. I'm here to meet somebody. And he's like, oh, who is that? Okay, I don't know this guy. So he's walking over to me, asking me my personal business. You know, I'm going to give you an answer. It might not be the answer you want, but I'm going to give you an answer. I told him, I said, well, when she get here, if you know her, then you'll know who I'm waiting on. They're like, oh, okay, that's cool. He told, my name is Herman, man. What's your name? I told him, my name is Stubb. You know, I figured I don't know him, so I just give him my nickname, my street name, and we'll be good. And we chit-chatted for a few minutes, and then these other guys walked over. It was 5 of them. And they introduced themselves, and I can't remember all their names right off the top of my head, but I remember a little bit, Diamond, Shorty Mac. I can't remember the other guy. And I have them wrote down in my journal. I should have dug that out. And we were just talking, and they asked me the same thing, man, you want to play basketball? And I'm like, nah, I'm waiting on somebody. Well, who is that? And when she get here, you know, you'll see her, you'll know who I'm talking about if you know her. Oh, okay, so they was asking me, well, you're not from around here, are you? I'm like, no. I'm like, how can you tell? Like you said, because your accent. I'm in Louisiana, and I come from Nebraska. They don't say my accent. I found that real funny, but we were just, you know, some guys just shooting the crap, and you know, I could tell, I got the feeling they were just normal, everyday guys, just, you know, trying to get by. They weren't, you know, criminals or thugs or dope dealers, nothing like that. At least I didn't get the sense of that. They were just out playing basketball, having a good time, enjoying life. And so 7 o'clock come and go, 7:15 come and go, 7:30 come and go, and I start getting that sinking feeling in my stomach. Man, she gonna stand me up. I drove way out here for nothing. So after 8 o'clock come, I'm like, you know what? I'm out of here. I'm just gonna find something to do. And I got up to leave, and Herman said, well, he said, look like she ain't gonna show up, man. You sure you don't want to stay and play with us? I'm like, give me just a minute. Now, I'm a fisherman too, so I always try to keep a fishing pole in the truck. You don't want to get fish slime on your fish blood and stuff. And you never know when you're going to be driving and see a body of water that is calling you to find out what's swimming in it. So I had some tennis shoes in there too, so I just went in the bathroom there at the park, changed clothes, and I came out and played basketball with them. And we played off and on till midnight. And the thing about Louisiana at this time is a lot of their outdoor basketball courts have a metal roof over them. So if it starts raining, which it does quite frequently there, you can still stay outside and play basketball and without not have to worry about getting wet. But they also turn the lights on. And on Fridays and Saturdays, from Monday through Thursday, the lights stay on till 9 p.m. Fridays till 10 p.m. And then Saturday till midnight. I'm sorry, Fridays and Saturdays till midnight. And then Sunday, they don't turn them on at all. So once midnight comes, they turn all the lights. It's pretty black in the park, and you find something else to do when you go home. So they turned the lights out, and the guys had gathered up over by where we had been sitting, and I walked over and asked them where the closest liquor store was, because I wanted a beer. I've been drinking that hot faucet water. I wanted a beer, and they're like, oh, we getting ready to go now, man. You can just come and go with us. Now, here's where a choice could have changed my whole night. And I could have still been ignorant to the existence of these creatures. I had just got a car probably 3 days before. No, it was Tuesday, 4 days. It was a 78 Monte Carlo. It was one of my first vehicles. I love my car. It had the velour seats in it. I was not about to put these 6 sweaty dudes in my car and get my car all messed up. So my vanity at that time cost me for having an ignorance, bliss-free life as far as scriptures are concerned, other than what I see on TV. But because I was that thing, I'm like, all right, well, I'll just walk with you. So we standing there joking, and they putting together their money, trying to find if they're going to be able to get a 12-pack or a case of beer. And I'm like, well, I got $5 on it, so y'all figure out the rest. And that's when I found out that the guy named Herman, that wasn't his real name. That was actually his nickname. And the reason why they called him Herman is because they said his head was big, like the guy from the Monsters, Herman the Monster. They said his head was big like that, so that's why they called him Herman. I like that's kind of messed up, but of course I got a good laugh off of that. But they all seem like just normal everyday guys, and I felt comfortable with them. And you know, we exited out of the park and went down the street, and we hit the railroad tracks and started walking down the railroad tracks. And I'm like, well, why are we going this way? And he's like, it's a shortcut. You know, if we take the long way around, we won't get to the liquor store in time, because we didn't leave until probably 12:30, 12:35 when we left from the park. But they said if we had to take the long way around, just took the surface streets around, it would have took almost 45 minutes, and we take the shortcut. I'm like, okay. So as you enter onto the railroad track, there's 3 buildings to my left. And to my right, there's a field of thistles. And if you don't know what a thistle is, it starts out looking like a dandelion. And then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it gets these leaves on it with these, I call them needles, because you get stuck by one and feel like you got stuck with a hypodermic needle. They can get long. Like I've seen some 2.5 inches, depending on the height of the plant. And the plant can, normally in the Midwest, they top out about 6.5 feet, but because it rains so much in Louisiana, some of the ones I was seeing was like 7, maybe 7.5 feet. And that's standing on the railroad tracks, and you walk off the street onto the railroad track, the sides dropped away. So you're standing on a slight incline. But you can see, depending on your height, the tops of some of the thistles. But it was a big field of them. I mean, like, I knew it sounded ridiculous, but almost like somebody just opened up a bag of seeds and just started dumping them down there. It was thick, and there were houses on the other side of it, probably about 150 yards away. You see the back porch light on some houses, but to the left, there were 3 buildings. There was a junkyard, a lumber yard, and a tire shop, and they were all connected. But directly behind each one of these buildings, there was one street light, but it wasn't throwing enough light, so where when you walk out of the direct light of one, you step directly into the light of another. No, you had to walk like 5 or 6 feet, and then you would come into the light of the next one. So there was an area of gloom in between them where if you weren't like 5 feet from the person, even with the light, you wouldn't be able to tell who it was. You would just be seeing a silhouette. It was that black back there, and Airline Highway was less than 50 feet away from it. You could actually hear cars going up down the highway. I'm in the neighborhood. I'm just walking down the railroad track. And it was 3 guys in the front, 2 guys in the middle, and me and Herman were bringing up the rear. And so everybody was talking. I can't tell you what everybody was talking about, but me and Herman, he was asking me about kids. And the first 2 questions, he asked me, he said, man, what do you know about babies? When they get hungry, how do you know they're hungry? I said, they start crying. Or if you got them on a schedule, then you know it's time for them to eat. But I really didn't pay it a great deal of attention. I just figured, well, that's kind of an odd question. And then he asked me, what do you do when they're sick? Do they stay up all night? Do you really got to walk around holding them all night if they're sick? I said, well, if you're smart, you take them to the emergency room, find out what's wrong with them, or get them to the doctor the next day if you don't feel like doing that. And I'm like, well, why are you asking me these questions about kids? Because I'm starting to, what's going on here? Well, Herman told me that his girlfriend was supposed to have his first child in the next week, 2 weeks tops, if the baby came late. But he was supposed to be a father next week, and he was basically scared or nervous about becoming a father because he didn't know nothing about kids. And I said, have you talked to your mother, your grandmother about it? He's like, yeah, and they basically told me, you got yourself into this, you're going to get, deal with it. You didn't talk to us before you had sex, stuff like that. And I'm like, wow, really? I said, well, go to the library and get you some books and just ask as many questions as you can. I said, but don't be afraid. I said, your life is about to change. But don't be afraid, because you're talking about another life. And just do the best that you can, man. That's all you can. But don't set yourself up for failure just because you're afraid, because you don't know, because there is knowledge that you can gain that'll tell you what to do. And you can always reach out to the nurses at the hospital or the doctor and ask them questions too. They should answer them for you. So we was having a conversation like that. And he was like, well, how do you know so much about kids? I'm like, well, I got nieces and nephews that I babysitted before. So, of course, I wasn't an expert. Not by at that time I wasn't, but that came later on. But I had some knowledge, and I just shared what I knew with you. But we were walking along, talking, and I was just looking around. You know, it's dark, and I'm just walking, looking around. He's like, "What's the matter? Did you see something?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "Well, there's a dog that be in the junkyard. It's a big black dog." He said, "And sometime he get out." He said, "But he gonna run at you, but just bend down and pick up some rocks and throw them at him, start howling, and usually he'll run off. He gonna still be barking, but he won't try to get you." He said, "But you let him run on you too close, he might bite you." I'm like, "Oh, okay. All right." Then when you're walking down railroad track and you're walking on them rocks, all you can hear is crunch, crunch, crunch. It's next to you or something. So I think that kind of contributed to the fact that I didn't hear anything, if there was anything I could have heard, but I damn sure didn't smell anything other than Louisiana has this smell all its own. I can't. The only thing I could describe it as is, with the humidity level, as much rain as they get, there's always vegetation that's decomposing in different stages, and that could contribute to it, or maybe it's just the way Louisiana smells. I don't know, but it has a smell all its own, and you smell it wherever you go. But I didn't notice any strange smell or anything. All I knew is we were walking along, talking, and I was looking around, and I had been looking to my right, and I was looking back forward, and I seen something big and black come out of them thistles, and it was in the air when I turned around to start running. Now, I didn't clearly see what it was. I just knew it was big and black. Now, at this time, I'm weighing 225 pounds. I could squat 500 pounds, and I could bench press 300 pounds. I was in football shape. I could run a 4.340 at this time, so I could get out of town fast. I would never been afraid to have a confrontation with any other man on this planet. I don't care how big they is, because if I can't match you physically, I'll just make you chase me until you run out of wind, and then I'll figure out a way to deal with you. But I'm not worried about any confrontation with any man. So, I don't know, primordial instinct, make you run, or whatever, but I started running, and I hadn't taken 10 steps. I didn't see what happened, but I heard like a scattering of rocks. And then I heard Herman say, "Don't leave me." But it was more than just somebody saying, "Don't leave me." There was something in his voice that was like, "Oh my God, in heaven, whatever you do, please don't leave me here." It just, something in his voice is the only thing I could say is what made me stop. Now I'm thinking, it's that dog. He told me the dog was running up on me barking, and he done jumped out of these bushes. I'm thinking dog. So I stopped running, turned around, bent down, and picked up 2 handfuls of rocks, and I got my arm cocked, and I ran back 5 or 6 steps. And I looked, and Herman is laying on his back, propped up on his elbows. And
take your time, man. It's all right.
The biggest dog that I ever seen is leaning over him, and it's face like 6 to 8 inches away from his head. Now, understand, everything that I'm seeing is in silhouette. It's not in clear view because we're in between the lights. But he's just outside of that second street light to where I can see him, but it's still mostly in silhouette. But I can see that thing's head, as big as it was, how close it was to him, and he's not screaming, he's not yelling, he's not struggling. It's like he's just frozen in that position, and he's got his head tilted back, looking right in this thing's face. And I'm still thinking, that's a dog. But, oh my God, that's the biggest dog I've ever seen in my life. But they said it was a big black dog, so this got to be it. Monsters don't exist. There's no werewolves out there. What is a dog then? I seen the Patterson Gimli film. That don't look like no Bigfoot. And that one female, she's way in California. What she be doing down here in Louisiana? So, what is it? And when I started running, I guess the other guys heard me start running, so they took off running too, but they must have stopped running at some point and came back because I started hearing them saying, what is that? What the blank is that? What is that? Now I'm standing in the middle of the railroad track. And I'm looking at this thing, and I'm still thinking dog. And I heard somebody say, don't shoot. I don't know who the hell had the gun at the time, but I found out later, dude had a fanny pack, and he had a little snub-nosed 38 in there, Saturday Night Special. And he done pulled this pop gun out and aimed it at this thing.
Right.
Now, before that happened, I lowered my hand, and I must have dropped the rocks out of my hand. Because it looked up at me, and it did a quick scan of me and everybody else, and then it started looking at Herman again. It was totally ignoring her. Now, she had him dead to right. There was no reason I could think of why she didn't kill him or pick him up and just jump back off into the bushes and run off. I don't have the answer to that. I don't know what she did to him. I don't know what he went through. None of that. All I know is what I saw, and I should have kept running. But since I didn't, now how the hell am I going to get out of this situation? Now, behind the building that are now on my right, because I'm facing back up the way we have been coming, there's a 6-foot chain link fence with the barbed wire on top, and I'm thinking, if I could get to that fence, that second building, the lumber yard, the back of the building was close enough to the fence that I would have got chewed up a little bit on that barbed wire, but I could have got to the top of there. I could have got on top of that building and ran across it and dropped down in front, and I would have been right on Airline Highway. And hopefully I would have been able to flag somebody down, or I would have just went back to my car. But since I hadn't did that, I'm just trying to think how the hell it got here. And I mean, a lot of thoughts go through your head when you're standing. A lot. And you gotta get it, analyze it, and either use it or dismiss it, because you're only gonna get one shot. And I still haven't seen this thing clearly yet. But I can tell by the size, I'm just... But shortly after that is when the guy said, don't shoot it. When he did that, this thing took 2 steps forward. It was on all fours. And the first thing I seen that came into the light was a hand. Not a paw, not no raccoon looking paw. It looked like a human hand, a huge human hand with 2.5, 3-inch nails on the end of it. And they were curved, but they weren't wickedly curved. They were curved just enough so that when it put his hand down flat on the ground, that the tips of his fingers wouldn't touch the ground because of the curvature in the nail. I'm about 7 feet away at this time when she took those 2 steps. So I got to see her real good. And she wasn't in a hurry. But her whole demeanor had changed. Because when she came forward, you couldn't see her any eye shine until she came forward into the light, and the light actually hit her eyes, and that's when they started shining. So it wasn't like she had an internal glow that she created on her own. It was because of the light. But the color of her eyes would be the color of a full moon when it's white, and a full moon when it's that orange color. If you combine them 2 colors perfectly, that's what color her eyes would be. Not amber with a light showing through the bottom of it, but just a white orangish look. And she looked at me. She had her ears back, and people, I call it a smile, but it's really not a smile because it's and when dogs do it, it's a sign of aggression when they raise that jaws up and they showing all their teeth. She had that expression on her face, but she wasn't looking at me. She was looking past me. But just the size of, I mean, her arms had to be 5.5 feet long because of the posture that she had when she came forward. When she took them 2 steps, she put her hindquarters right over Herman's face. So he could have told you about genitalia and all that stuff. But it's almost like she acted like he didn't exist anymore. She focused on us after that. And she let out this growl. It wasn't real loud, but I could feel it. I don't know if it went from my feet up to my chest or from my head down through my chest, but I could actually feel it. But it was almost like she was growling, but she didn't want to attract any more attention than she already had, if you know what I mean. That's just the feeling that I got.
Right.
But it was such a deep resonating bass. It's a vibration, but to know that something that's breathing is doing it rather than it being artificially created, there's some power there. And to see something like that, and the first thing going through your mind is, I'm looking at a werewolf, is exactly what happened to me. So when she growled, seemed like my whole body locked up. I couldn't move, so I just stood there and urinated on myself.
Yeah.
And I'm not ashamed to say it. I just stood there and urinated. I mean, I couldn't think of anything else to do other than that. I remember thinking, I wish Jesus would show up holding his father's hand. My mother will be real useful right now. She's always saved me from danger. Maybe Superman will show up. Maybe Batman will pull up. Right. I could use one of them. No, that's not going to happen. I mean, them dudes were standing on the track yelling, what the F is that? What is that? Nobody came out of one of them houses to see what was going on. No car was driving down the street and happened to just look down the railroad tracks and see what was going on and stop. So we was on our own, dealing with something I have no idea how to deal with. I have no silver bullets. I got a gun in the trunk of my car. I got 357, but it's in the trunk of my car. And when you see something like that, the first thing some people would do is question themselves, like, am I really seeing this? Well, thanks to my father, great man that I always thought he was, he taught all of his kids, God gave you your eyes for a reason. If you're seeing it, that means you've seen it. So don't question yourself about whether you've seen it or not. He said, because if you don't have no confidence in yourself, who the hell else is? But believe what you seen. God gave you the eyes for a reason. That's your camera. That's your recording device.
Right.
Your brain is your hard drive for you to store it. So don't doubt yourself that you've seen it. So I couldn't doubt what I've seen, especially when I hear her breathe. Now you done took 2 steps closer. I can actually smell your breath. And her breath smelled like she ate something and just never brushed her teeth. Ever. That's what her breath smelled like. I mean, I can't. Dogs that eat dog food all the time, they have a certain smell to their breath.
Right.
A dog that get meat mixed in, he's got a different smell to his breath. And she just smelled like she just never brushed her teeth and that she ate whatever the hell she wanted. So, but for her to be in them thistles like that, and I'm not seeing any debris in her coat, no mud, no water, nothing. It's almost like somebody had just got done brushing her 5 minutes before she made her opinion. She looked that damn clean. And I'm just, when you're scared to death and yet you kind of in awe of what you're seeing, that's definitely a weird feeling too. That's, your yin and yang are not balanced on that. But when you got time to see this, and she could have killed all of them. There's no doubt in my mind. Her head, if I had to compare her to a breed of dog, the best description I could give you, Jeff, is that her head was shaped like a Malamute's. Her features were broad. I mean, her mother was broad. It wasn't extremely long, but it was broad. And she didn't have what I would consider a mane. She did have a short scruff on the side of her, but not what I would consider a mane. And she had fur all over her body, probably about 2 inches long. I could actually see muscle definition in her forearm and in her bicep from her posture when she had her weight up like that. And just 46, 40, let's see, that fish tank I had is 4 foot, so I'm going to have to say 48, 52 inches across from shoulder to shoulder.
Wow.
Thick neck. I mean, even her thighs just, I would have wanted thighs like that, especially playing football. Everything about her was like, she was perfect for whatever she was designed to do. And I thought I was going to die that night. I was probably 99.9% I was going to die. And it wasn't going to be a good death. I was going to feel every bite, every shred, every shape. What other reason could it have showed up if it wasn't a killer?
Right.
But she didn't do that. I made a move to go and get on that fence. And I guess when I shuffled my feet and she heard the sound of the rocks moving, she turned and she looked at me, and I urinated on myself again. But I didn't hear a voice. I just got the feeling, because I looked her dead in her eyes when she looked, and I got the feeling that she was looking at me saying, "Go ahead and run. I dare you. Go ahead. See how far you get. Go ahead, run." And I just stood there and peed on myself. That look that they can give you when they lock eyes, I understand now why they say, don't look it in the eye. You don't see an animal looking back at you. There's intelligence there. And for you to even get a feeling like it's toying with you, like go ahead and run, that's not animalistic. I don't care how well they train. That would speak of a higher intelligence. And just being that close, and I didn't even care what was going on with Herman. God forgive me. I was more worried about me. try to process that. In 1981 in July, there was no podcast. There's no Jeffries. There's no Dark Water. There's no World Bigfoot Radio. There's no Outlaw. Bigfoot Outlaw. There's nobody to reach out to help me understand what I've seen, and so I'm looking at a monster, a werewolf. Now, as if that wasn't weird enough, the next thing that happened, I'm gonna always got questions for you back to the court. But you ever seen a dog that's got fleas? If you've ever had a dog that has fleas, and they might be sitting up right next to you, and then they make that real quick twitch and start biting at their tail or down at the base of their tail or on their haunches, but it's a real quick movement. They might be just sitting there getting petted, and then all of a sudden, poof, they gone.
Yep.
She twitched like that. Not that she started biting at her tail. I didn't see a tail. I don't recall seeing a tail. I focused on that business end because them 3-inch canines and all of her teeth in her mouth were cutting teeth. Her back teeth weren't like a dog. They were all cutting teeth. They kind of remind me of how a bear trap would close together. Like there are spaces just for the teeth to interlock like that. And I don't know if she had a double row of teeth. She didn't open her mouth. She just raised her lip and growled and kind of frowned up a little bit when she looked at us. And I'm like, okay, God, get ready. I'm on my way. I'm on my way. Why you would let me die like this, I have no idea. Why you would create something like this, I have no idea. You supposed to made us in your image, and you can put monsters like this on the same earth that we on. What's up with that, God? I mean, you start asking yourself questions like that. Because you're getting ready to die. So, shortly, if you live your life right, you'll be able to ask God that.
Right.
And what's up with that? Why am I standing up here, hold my head in my arms, talking to you right now? Why would you let that thing kill me like that? I'd be able to talk to him, but thank goodness that didn't happen. But she twitched and stood up on 2 feet. I didn't hear no popping, snapping sound. I didn't hear any of that. It was just a smooth transition from all four to standing up. So now I'm looking up at something that's got to be 9.5 feet from feet to head. Now, I just spent 4 hours playing basketball. I know that a regulation rim in the park is 10 feet. She could have dunked a basketball standing flat-footed. No jumping needed.
Wow.
I saw her stomach. She had a V shape, not a sharp V, but it was a V shape where I could see the muscular on her, how many muscles she had on her hips and thighs. I could see that better because now she's standing about 3/4 of the way into the light. She's black, but yet on her coat there's splashes of gray that look like a patchwork quilt. They weren't any uniform design. It was just a splash here and a splash there. Now, it could have been from the light, but I actually think those were markings in her coat. And she looked to the right, and I took a hot second, and I looked the same way she looked to my left, and I saw 6 lights about 60 feet back in the pistol. And they were standing in what would be a triangular formation, 2 in the front, 1 in the back. But there was enough room between the front 2 that the third set of light could see in between them. I don't believe those were animal eyes. A lot of people have said that I was too close to her pups, this and that. What I saw that wasn't a natural light that an animal would have had. And why would the pup's eyes be red, but yet it wasn't a full red light? Imagine if you took a reflector off a bicycle, Jeffrey, and you took a black magic marker and started at the center and just started coloring in the red until you get to about an eighth to a quarter of an inch from the edge and you stop. That's what kind of lights I saw. It was like the outline, like a ring of light. But when I had a conversation with my father, he told me the military had night vision goggles similar to that, that's what you would see. I'm like, oh, okay. So can I say 100% that she didn't have pups around? No. I did see 4 breasts on her, look like human breasts, but I've had dogs before, and I know what female dog breasts do once she's whelped. They just sag and they like bags, and hers weren't. Hers reminded me of a woman that goes to the gym at least 4 days a week. Not that she's trying to get big and strong like a man, but she just wants to stay fit. That's what her breast reminded me of. It didn't look like she would have been nursing. I don't know that for a fact, but just seeing that, and I'm like, and it's a female, but she stood up, she looked over to her right, and jumped into the distance. She landed about 18 to 20 feet away, but when she took off running, she ran straight toward those lights. When she jumped off the track, and I watched for, I don't know, maybe 5 seconds, because she went over those thistles so fast that they was just popping back up like they had just been linked over by a wind. No damage. She didn't leave a path of destruction through there. They just popped right back up like she had never been in there. I don't know where she went. I don't know where the lights went. As soon as she got 5 seconds away from me, I ran down and I started trying to help Herman. And then everybody else snapped out of it, and they came down, and we're asking Herman, man, you okay? We looking at him to see if he's been scratched, if he's been bit, anything. He doesn't have a mark on him. He just got this blank expression on his face, and his mouth is open, and he got a little drool coming out of one side of his mouth. But for all intents and purposes, Herman had checked out. We picked him up, and they started going further down the tracks. I'm like, okay, well, where are we going? Well, it's closer. We're closer to the liquor store than it is to go back to the house. I'm like, but y'all going further back down there, and once we get out of the third light, then it's going to be pitch black. And I don't know which way that thing went, because we actually have to go further down the track and then go through this beaten path that cuts right through them thistles to come out to the back of the liquor store. That didn't seem like the best decision for me, but after what I just seen, I'm not willing to go off by myself. So I just stayed with her. And it seemed like it took us a long time, because Herman would only every 2 or 3 steps he might assist, other than that we dragging him. And we get to the liquor store. I set him on the ledge, and I put my hand on his chest, and Shorty Mac came over, and he said, I got him, man. So I'm standing there, and I'm processing what then happened, and 3 other guys went in the store, and they in there asking the clerk, man, will you call the police? Call the army, call somebody. And he's like, he's standing there looking at him like, okay, what the hell is this now? So then they said, we just seen a monster on the railroad track. His whole demeanor changed. It's like, please make your selection, bring it up here so I can ring it up. So you can go ahead and go, because it's close to closing. It was approximately 10 minutes to 1, I guess, when we walked up through the track. So that encounter, she was there. It wasn't just a few seconds. The minutes went by. And they're arguing back and forth. I'm standing there, and finally he told him, you know what, just go ahead and leave. You're not going to buy nothing, just go ahead and leave. So, as I'm standing there, I was about to go in the store and see if I could talk to him. But the way his demeanor was, I'm like, this is a waste of time. So while I'm standing here, I hear Shorty Mac. He's saying something, but I was focused on what was going on in the store. So until I switched my attention over to what he was saying, I had no idea what he was saying. And he was saying, man, what is this stuff in Herman's head? I can't get it out. And I'm like, what are you talking about, man? He was laying on the ground. You know, what are you talking about? What's in his head? It's probably just dirt. It's like, no, man, this is not dirt. Now, the rocks that we were walking on the railroad tracks were white, and they will put that white chalk on you if you pick them up, because I had it on my hand. So I went over to Herman and I wiped my hands on my shorts and stuff as best I could. And I started wiping at it. He had a round circle in his head. It was white. And I'm dabbing at it, and I even licked my finger a couple of times to try to wipe it out. And it wasn't coming out. Now, I spent approximately 5 hours talking to this dude off and on that night. I played basketball right next to him. He sat down next to me when we weren't playing basketball. He was just walking on the railroad tracks with me before this encounter happened. And before that happened, his whole head was black. His hair was black. Yet after that, he had a white circle in his head, a little bit bigger than a 50-cent piece, I would say, that went all the way down to his scalp. I don't know what happened to him to cause that. I have heard of people's hair turning white or parts of their hair turning white, having paranormal experiences or possibly even having died and came back.
Right, or
but
a
not
frightening,
from
yeah.
seeing a monster. So I have no idea what had transpired in him to make something like that happen. All I know is I seen what I seen. I helped that young man get home because my car was parked basically right down the street from the park. And I found out then that Herman stayed right across the street from the park when we got him home. Now, it took us almost 45 minutes to leave from that liquor store to get to his house. Every little sound that didn't sound like a car passing by, we were all on alert. But when we weren't hearing anything, of course, everybody talking, man, what was that? Did you see that thing? What did it do to Herman? You know, all these questions coming out. Now, I just met these dudes at night. I really don't know Adam. I'm just going by the feeling that I got from hanging out with. So, really, I didn't owe any of them anything to have to stick around. I could have just left and went to my car, but that would have put me by myself. I ain't trying to do that right now. I think it's better protection with the herd. So, I stayed with them. We got Herman to his house. They went up on the door. Somebody was knocking on the door. Somebody else was ringing the doorbell. I'm sitting with my hand in Herman's chest because if you let him go, he's going to do a face plant or he's going to fall backwards and maybe hit his head on the sidewalk or something. So you pretty much got to support it because, like I said, he's checked out. We couldn't get him to say a word the whole time that happened. He just had this blank look on his face. So finally somebody woke his mother up and she comes to the door. Of course, she's not happy because somebody's knocking on the door, somebody's ringing the doorbell. And then she opened the door and you got 5 people saying, we just saw a monster, something happened to her. All at once. I don't know this lady. I ain't never met her before. I can only imagine what was going through her head at the time. All I'm going to hear is something happened to my son. I might not hear the monster stuff till later, but I'm going to hear something happen to my son. So that's immediately what she asked. Well, what do you mean something happened to Herman? What's wrong with my baby? Herman, baby, what's the matter? He doesn't respond. She asked him again, Herman, what's the matter? And she actually grabbed his face in her hand and turned his head and looked at him, and he's just blank. She said, oh, my God, I don't know what y'all done did to my baby. I don't know what y'all done gave him. She said, don't nobody leave. I'm calling the police. As soon as she said that, I eased Herman back up against the railing on the porch to make sure he wasn't going to fall. And I turned around and I walked out of her yard. And as soon as there was 3 houses down, there was somebody sitting on their porch because I remember hearing one of the ladies say, I wonder where he's running from. I ran to the trunk of my car, and yes, in front of God and everybody, I stripped out of them wet underwear and wet shorts and grabbed my shorts I had on before and put them on, and then I got in the car, and when I left from the curb, my back tires were spinning. I went back down the street past Herman's house. I hit Airline Highway. I didn't even stop for the stop sign that was at the corner. I just pulled right out into traffic. I almost hit one car, and I know somebody else almost hit me because they laid on their horn. I didn't even care. I went straight home. I got out of the car. I got in the trunk and got my gun out. I went inside. As soon as I closed the door and locked it, I moved the couch in front of the door. And then I went and got the refrigerator out of the kitchen, unplugged it, moved it into the front room, put it in front of the couch, and plugged it back up. And then I went and got my bullets out of the closet, and I got my speed loader. And I sat down at the table, and I started loading my speed loader. And then I opened up my Jack Daniels. And then I started to replay in my mind what had happened. Now, the reason that I left from Herman's house like that is because the gun that I just told you I got out of the trunk of my car, I bought it on the street, so it wasn't registered in my name. I don't know if it was committed to use a crime or murder, anything. The guy I bought it from, of course, he told me, no, man, it don't have no bodies on it, but I bought it on the street. Now, with the condition that Herman was in, the first thing the cops are going to say, what kind of drugs is he on? They might even say, we're going to search vehicles. They search my car and find that gun, whatever it was used for. Well, 9/10 of possession is the law, so that means it's going to get put on me. I didn't want to take a chance on that happening, so I left the scene. But when you get home and you got every light on in your apartment, and you sitting and you drinking, and you're thinking about what happened, and I said, I need to get my journal. I started my journal when I was 10. I still write in it today. But I felt it was necessary for me to write that down because I was having an inner struggle with, did I really just see that? Is this a nightmare? When am I going to wake up? This can't be real. And as you sit there and you having all of this turmoil, trying to make sure you don't fall all the way down that rabbit hole and just become that babbling idiot that somebody might come and visit once every Sunday in a month. Because they remember that they put you somewhere where you won't hurt yourself. A lot of people don't realize that, but that's how my encounter affected me. I didn't know that monsters were real until I had one just a few feet away from me, breathing and growling at me, and knowing that there's nothing I could have done physically, unarmed, to defend myself if it had wanted to kill me. That's a humbling experience, especially for an athlete. And not to say I had a chip on my shoulder, but as much as I worked out to try to get ready for football, I took a great amount of pride in what I did and my accomplishments. And to know that I could have did that for another 18 years. And I still would have been in the same boat if I had to face up against something like that with just the weapons that God gave me and the weapons that God gave me. That's not a fight. That's not even a battle. That's a commercial. Till the main event starts. So I had a real hard time dealing with my encounter, Jeffrey. It affected me for 3 years. My brother, God bless him, so taught me how to meditate. And that's what really helped me start coming back to grips with things, because going outside, being outside after dark, that wasn't an option. My boss used to schedule me to work till 9:30. I'm like, no, I'll rather work Saturday and Sunday than have to close. I'll come in and open. She's like, well, Roy, I'm like, I know, because I did tell her what happened, because I was supposed to go back to work Monday, and I called off just because I wasn't ready to leave the house. So when I went in Tuesday, yes, I did have my gun with me. I didn't tell my boss I had, but I did have my gun with me because I guess I convinced myself, or based upon just the facts that I had, it was my firm belief that that girl that stood me up showed up on the railroad track. Because when she stood up and turned her head, I'm not 100% sure. I wish I was, but I could have swore I seen a gold hoop earring in her ear. Now, it could have been a tracking device, but I saw a yellow flash that would be the same flash you would get in a light from a gold earring or something gold. But it was so fast. I mean, she turned her head, and I mean, you seen how they move, man. It's not
Yeah,
It's not natural.
it is not natural. It's not fluid. How some people say it's fluid. It's nothing. It's the most bizarre way of movement that your brain can't process that. It's just not. It's not right. Yeah.
Right. So I'm not 100% sure if that's what I saw, but I know she had something in her ear. But with everything that I knew about werewolves then, it's because somebody shapeshift into one or they make a deal with the devil and let a demon take possession of them. And that's how they achieve that form.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going with. It was that chick. So if she come in that store, I'm about to blow your chest out your back.
Yeah.
I probably would have went to prison for the rest of my life, but if she had came in that store Tuesday, I probably would have blew her chest out her back because I was convinced that she was that thing. And now you done showed up. I don't know where you live, how to call you, and then you gonna show up at my job after I done seen this monster, but you stood me up. No. But thank God that didn't happen. But I was acting so out of character. I know I was trying not to, but every little sound, man, I was jumping in. My boss was there, and finally she was like, "Rory, what's the matter with you?" And I'm like, "I don't want to talk about it." He's like, "Well, evidently something really bothers me." She's like, "Did you have a bad date? You know, what happened?" I said, "I really don't want to talk about it." And I held her off for like 3 hours, and she just kept at me and kept at me. She's like, "I can tell something's really bothering you." She said, "You jumping at every sound." She's like, you standing staring out the window. She's like, "What's going on with you?" So I said, "I don't want to lose my job." And she said, "What you mean?" I'm like, "The person that was here Friday is not the person that's here Tuesday. I know stuff now, and I don't want to lose my job because if I tell you what happened, you're going to fire me or you're going to call somebody to come pick me up. So I don't want to talk about it." But she just kept at me. And finally, I guess I needed to just share it with somebody. And I told her. And she never interrupted me. She didn't even ask any questions. She just let me talk from start to finish. And then she said, in such a matter-of-factly tone, like, "Oh, well, it's going to be cloudy today." She said, "You seen a Luke Guru?" I said, "Have you not been listening to what I just told you? I ain't talking about no dude named Lou. I'm talking about a monster." And she said, "No, I'm saying Luke Guru." I'm like, "Who the hell is that?" She said, No, what is that?" She said, "Luke Guru is a French werewolf. It's the French called werewolf. And they supposed to be down here, a lot of them, based on what I was told by my grandmother." I'm like, "Oh, okay." I said, "Well, how do you kill them?" She said, "Well, you're going to need some oil, some rock salt, and some fire." And I'm looking at her like, what the hell? Okay, I know the oil and the fire is for burning, but what is the rock salt? She said, "Well, you take the rock salt and you throw them on the creature. And they supposed to be highly allergic to it. And while they either trying to not get the rock salt off of them, that's when you throw the oil on them and then you set them on fire." I said, "Oh, that's not going to work for me. That's not going to work for me." She's like, "Why?" I said, "Because just my luck, when I throw the rock salt and the oil on the creature, while it's trying to get the rock salt off of it, these matches that I got that I keep lighting and the wind keep blowing out, yeah, I'm going to be right where I was at from square one. So that's not going to work for me." I started thinking maybe a flare gun or something like that, but she talked to me for quite some time. She did make fun of me, and she said, "Well, if I see that girl come in the store, what do you want me to tell her?" I said, "Get her address. Don't tell her nothing. Just get her address." She said, "What you going to do?" I said, "I didn't say I would do anything, but just get her address. I need some answers that I'm never going to get because I really, really wanted to go back the next day and check on her. And I'm not ashamed to say that I wasn't brave enough to do that there.
And
There was nothing on this
can't blame
planet
you.
that was going to make me go back in that area, day or night. Nothing. And I tried 3 different times, and I got so far down Airline Highway, and I just stopped and turned around. I'm like, I mean, when your heart starts getting ready to pound out your chest and you're sweating and you are literally fighting within yourself to just go another mile, just go another mile. I couldn't do it, so I turned around. I went back home, but I just started drinking. Barricade the house, put the gun out, Jack Daniels Green Label. 3 years until I started noticing that I'd be at work and I wanted something to drink. I'll be on my way to work, 7-something in the morning. I want something to drink. I could be sitting, not doing nothing. Sometimes I might be having a drink, and yet I want something to drink.
Yeah. Just to cover that feeling up.
So that's when I said, okay, now you're an alcoholic. What are you going to do? I did what you're supposed to do. I just stopped drinking. I just got up and poured everything out that I had. And I still have a drink every now and then, but I don't need to have a drink to go to sleep. I needed to basically get drunk just to pass out. Because other than that, my mind wasn't going to let me go to sleep. And it affects your life. I mean, when you're too scared to date, when you don't want to be outside at night, when you start looking at your neighbors funny, and they even notice, well, man, you don't come over to barbecues or nothing no more. I'll be like, no, I just want to be in the house. Well, what, did we do something? No, you didn't do nothing. I just don't feel like being around people. Because you can't trust anybody. You wondering who the hell else going to sprout fangs and fur. And it's not even a full moon. That's not any way to live.
No.
It's not. It's a prison that you impose upon yourself. But when you don't have any knowledge about what really that thing is, then I guess you just trip the life fantastic in your mind and just everybody suspect. It's safer that way.
Yeah.
But really it's not.
Roy, real quick, I'm coming up on my extent of record time. I've got a couple quick questions I'd like to ask you in regards to your experience, if you don't mind.
Okay. Go ahead.
All right, my first question is, well, pretty much the one question I'd really like to know is when she came out of the woods and when you first urinated on yourself, did she notice it? Because, you know, like you had said, she kind of saw you, you urinated, you kind of looked at the fence, and she kind of looked at you like, I dare you. Did at all she notice that you had urinated on yourself both times, or did she kind of like make a facial feature or anything?
That's a good question, Jasper. I guess I would have to say the second time I did, I'm sure she knows.
Okay.
Because that's when, excuse me, that's when I actually could hear her breathing. So she had to take a stronger intake of breath in order for me to hear her as clearly as I did. But as far as a facial expression change, the look she had on her face already was like, just like I said, run, I dare you. It's like,
right.
If you were just, I don't want to say like she wanted to play, but definitely not that, but almost like
kind of like daring you.
It'll be funner for me if you run.
Yeah.
And I catch you and kill you.
Like almost like a dare. I dare you to run.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
All right. The only reason why I asked is because I had someone who had an experience that did, you know, I mean, it's nothing to be embarrassed of. I know at the time and at your age, you know, yeah, it was probably embarrassing, but it's, my theory is it's natural, you know. I mean, animals, when they get scared, they urinate, and it's almost like to mask a scent or to throw another scent out there. There was
or maybe get rid of that extra weight so you can get the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah, absolutely. But like Lewis, when Lewis had his encounter and he had urinated, the creature kind of smiled at him, like, look what I made you do, you know?
Right.
And I was just curious if it kind of acknowledged it or not, more or less. But
not that I can put into definitive terms that I noticed that she did that. But like I said, she had this look on her face, like, or maybe that's what that look meant. Like, yeah, you done peed on yourself. Now try to run.
Right.
Try to run now. And I know I asked somebody, and I know we're running short on time, so I'll make this quick. I asked somebody quite a few months ago if you're in a heightened state of fear, if when you do urinate on yourself, does it produce a different scent? And he said it's possible that it could, based upon chemical makeup that takes place under times of stress. What's going on with you if that happens? So he said it's possible that you could have put out a different scent. I'm like, well, hell, I was already scared to death, so I know she smelled the fear. So
yeah,
I guess that might have been like a hors d'oeuvre or something for her. But thank God she didn't do anything. I just want to know why, because we'll talk again. But that actually cost Herman his life. That encounter.
Yeah.
He never came back, and I guess his heart just couldn't take it anymore. It was some years later. I actually didn't find out until I had talked with his son. And that's a conversation for another day, because I get kind of riled up when I talk about his son. Really negative.
Right.
But so I don't know if she did a extra little facial feature just to let me know that she knew that she had that effect on me.
Right. Yeah. It's pretty much, it's not what you're looking at.
Right. And if I'm lucky, I'll never see one again. At least not up close.
Amen.
Like that.
Amen to that.
Because, oh God, that's just, I'll be okay. It's just when I talk about it sometime and I really sit down and let that vision come back to me. And
it's
I don't know what he had in mind when these things were created, but
yeah. I mean, people who haven't had encounters or haven't seen one, they don't realize that it's something that stays with you for the rest of your life. And, you know, like you and I had talked, and I'm more at that stage of confusion, you know, just I'm still kind of questioning, you know, why, what, and it's just, it'll stay with me and you and everyone else who has had the unfortunateness of seeing these things out in the wild with us for the rest of our lives. And it's
yes, sir.
So, well, we're almost on time, buddy. Yeah, we are, exactly.
All right. Well,
is there anything that
I
you'd
really
like to...
appreciate you. Yeah, there is one thing I'd like to add.
Yeah.
Before you go, anybody that's listening, hopefully Victor's listening to this too, and he can actually tell me what the hell I saw. That would give me so much peace. But anybody that's listening, all dogmen aren't bad. I will say that. But wherever you go, just stay vigilant. Just stay vigilant, because more and more people are disappearing, and until Big Brother lets us know what's going on, then we have to investigate and do our own research and draw our own conclusions. But just stay vigilant, and if you got pets, pay attention to your animals, because they'll let you know when something ain't right. But just stay vigilant, and may God bless all of you and hold you and keep you safe, and make sure you don't have, because you might say, I'd love to see one, until you see one. Then all that changes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then all of that changes.
Absolutely. All right, Roy, it was wonderful having you on. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your encounter with me. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me here. I really appreciate it. Long time subscriber, and I'm not going anywhere. So keep putting out this fantastic information and spread the awareness about these things. And God bless you for being you, Jeffrey. God bless you for being you.
Thanks, Roy. I appreciate that. And there you have it, folks. I hope you all enjoyed this second bonus as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is your support, after all, that helps the channel to continue to grow and go, and what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Everyone is simply treated with the respect that we deserve. Please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant. Keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real. These events have happened. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all.